Henry Cavill was back as Superman, but that all changed when two people came into power. A year later, fans are still angry and upset, but what actually happened? Hey everyone, welcome back to our movie news. A year ago yesterday, Henry Cavill announced to the world that he was back as Superman, and the official Warner Bros. And DC social media pages welcomed him back to the DCEU.
Hey everyone, I wanted to wait until the weekend was over before posting this, because I wanted to give you all a chance to watch Black Adam. But now that plenty of you have, I wanted to make it official that I am back as Superman. And the image you see on this post and what you saw in Black Adam are just a very small taste of things to come. So there's a lot to be thankful for, and I'll get to that in time. But I want to thank you guys most of all. Thank you for your support and thank you for your patience. I promise it will be rewarded.
Now, to many, hearing that video will bring a lot of great memories of this time last year, but some also very sad feelings knowing that the happiness we felt then has now gone. But what actually happened? Today we shall recall the events that occurred last year to work out exactly what happened, firstly causing Cavill's return, and then his unfortunate departure from DC. We begin with the merger of Warner Bros. And Discovery in early 2022. David Zaslav of Discovery came in to lead the merged companies, a businessman who has very little understanding of the movie industry and is purely focused on the numbers. And the DC head at the time, Walter Hamada, was being pushed out the door once his contract ran out at the end of October 2022. Before Hamada was gone, he hired James Gunn to secretly write a Superman film detached from the DCEU. But with Hamada's contract ending soon, his power was fading. So whilst he was technically in charge of DC up until his departure, Zaslav put Mike DeLuca and Pamela Abdi in charge of Warner Bros. Film Group, who became Hamada's bosses. Now, this is a very important detail to Cavill's return and departure, so remember those two names. At San Diego Comic-Con in July 2022, The Rock appeared in front of the Comic-Con crowd, promoting Black Adam. He was asked by a fan who would win between Superman and Black Adam, and The Rock's response clearly created a reaction from fans.
I will say, as you guys know, because we're all in deep with this mythology, and it's been the age-old question of who would win in a fight between Black Adam and Superman. Pound for pound, they're pretty close. I guess it probably all depends on who's playing Superman. I will just say that. So I'll leave it at that. I will leave it at that, and we'll just go with that one.
The crowd clearly understood who The Rock was referring to, and that was the first hint at Cavill's possible return to the DCEU. Now remember, at this point in time, Cavill was currently not in the movie at all, and the DC fandom was very divided. Not as much as it is now, but was still very divided back then. But one thing was clear. Fans wanted Henry Cavill back as Superman, and The Rock knew that. He had been asking Walter Hamada multiple times during the production of Black Adam to bring Cavill's Superman back, all with the same response: no. The Rock knew that he had to get fans worked up to show the demand for Cavill's Superman, and he knew that Comic-Con was the perfect place to do so. His answer to the crowd and the response he got was exactly what he wanted. So this time he wouldn't go to Hamada, who would instantly reject this. Now things were different. The Rock went over Hamada's head to his bosses, Abdi and DeLuca, who obliged to The Rock's request, and this was the beginning of Henry Cavill's return to the DCEU. Now, throughout The Rock's career, and specifically during the promotion of Black Adam, he pushed through one message: listen to the fans. They will guide you where you need to go. and he did so by trying to bring back Henry Cavill. Fortunately for Dwayne Johnson and us fans alike, Abdi and DeLuca were big fans of Cavill and understood that listening to the fans was a key part to success. So, whilst the next 5 DCEU movies were Walter Hamada products, they were being hijacked by the new regime, determined to reignite the DCEU and put it back on track. They began with negotiating with Henry Cavill, who at the time was getting towards the end of filming season 3 of The Witcher. Fortunately, Cavill's agent was the same agent as The Rock's, so communication was easy, and now with Warner Brothers wanting Cavill's return, negotiations ran smoothly. In September of 2022, a month before Black Adam was released worldwide, Henry Cavill shot the famous cameo scene for the movie for $250,000, with another $250,000 being paid for filming a cameo for the Flash movie too. As we got closer to the release of Black Adam, reports from scoopers came out that Cavill was in the final cut of the movie. Then, with a week to go before the film's official release, leaks from the global premieres revealed that cameo scene to the world. Deciding to embrace those leaks, The Rock would not so subtly welcome Cavill back publicly to the DCEU.
Where's the most unstoppable force in the universe? Where is he? Well, just like I fought hard for Black Adam for 15 years, Danny has been fighting for 6 years, Hiram has been fighting for 6 years, 15 years. We've all been fighting for this moment, so I will say this. Welcome home.
An eruption on social media began as DC fans across the globe celebrated Cavill's return. However, a minority of fans nitpicked the cameo due to the colour of the suit and the theme being played. The Black Adam crew decided to go with John Williams' Superman theme rather than Hans Zimmer's, who was only attached to Cavill's Superman. However, the majority of DC fans celebrated a fan favourite's return. A week later, when Black Adam released in theatres, the film opened domestically to $67 million, which to this day is the best DCEU domestic opening since Aquaman back in 2018, which managed to earn the same $68 million in its opening weekend. But compared to their rivals Marvel, this was classed as not a huge success. So instead of looking at the context of their own cinematic universe, Zaslav looked outwards to a hugely successful franchise. One of the biggest mistakes he could have made. Black Adam's box office ended at a disappointing $393 million worldwide, but yet again to this day is the best box office results the DCEU has seen since Aquaman in 2018. For context, the franchise has released 8 movies since then. Black Adam's box office was also without a theatrical release in China, and as I assume most of you know, China a lot of the time can produce $100 to maybe $200 million on its own for the box office. For Aquaman 1, China earned $291 million on its own. That's more than Shazam 2's and The Flash's global box office. So Black Adam made almost $400 million without a Chinese release. The Rock is so popular to Chinese audiences that Rampage was able to earn $55 million in its Chinese opening weekend, and $156 million total in China. A movie that with China made $428 million, but without China would have made $272 million. And if we look at The Rock's box office in China in general, he has made a lot of money. As you can see, the more popular the franchise or genre he is in, the more money he earns. So, let's say Black Adam, a movie about a superhero which is a very popular genre, had a Chinese release. We're looking at easily $150 million from China. You add that to the Black Adam box office and the movie makes about $550 million, which means it would have broke even and even made a slight profit and would be close to getting numbers that Man of Steel was getting. That is a step in the right direction for the context it was in. This was something The Rock had been saying too, and the key thing to focus on wasn't the short term, it was the long term. Black Adam was produced by Walter Hamada, and his lack of vision was in mind. If DeLuca and Abdi had produced Black Adam from the start, I think we would have seen a far stronger Black Adam movie, and that would have been shown in the box office return. And we have to remember that the lack of box office success was Walter Hamada's fault. Aquaman was already being worked on when Walter Hamada was hired, so he cannot be praised for that movie's success. So since he was put in charge of DC, the DCEU has been producing very low box office results. So Black Adam may have contrasting opinions, but that was bound to happen when it was produced by Walter Hamada. A very important thing to note is that whilst Abdi and DeLuca were trying to revive the DCEU through these new releases, the overall product was still a Hamada production. With limited budgets and time, they could only afford to shoot cameo sequences for Henry Cavill's Superman. So a 10-second cameo from Cavill wasn't going to boost the box office by hundreds of millions of dollars, especially when it was leaked a week before the film's release. Abdi and DeLuca knew this. They weren't looking for a quick cash boost. They were building for the future. David Zaslav, however, only focuses on the numbers he can see, and he hasn't got the DCEU backstory to understand that Black Adam's numbers were actually far better than what he thought they were, and the motivation behind Cavill's cameo wasn't to boost the box office, but was to build for the future. Then, soon after Black Adam's release, Henry Cavill got the go-ahead from Warner Brothers to confirm via Instagram that he was back as Superman, and that there was more to come in the future. As that video hit, we had reports from Deadline, Variety, and even The Hollywood Reporter that Cavill had already shot a cameo scene for the Flash movie that was meant to set up a Man of Steel 2. Articles also confirming that Abdi and DeLuca were pushing full steam ahead with a Man of Steel 2, and even a Justice League sequel with the entire cast returning. The Rock had his own plan that would eventually build to Superman vs. Black Adam, but confirmed that was going to be further down the line, meaning they were building a long-term plan. Finally, the biggest heroes were back and fan favourites were returning. Abdi and DeLuca got Ben Affleck to shoot a scene for Aquaman 2, which would have set more up for the future. Man of Steel 2 was actively looking for writers and directors, and there were rumours that it could even begin production in early 2023. DC was heading in the right direction, but then David Zaslav stopped all of that. Whilst Abdi and DeLuca were organising this all, Zaslav was still searching for a permanent DC head, and after multiple people rejected the offer, he landed with two people doing one job. James Gunn on the creative side, and Peter Safran on the business side, both becoming the co-heads of DC. This news broke, and was fair to say DC fans didn't quite know how to react. This was a surprise that no one saw coming because nobody thought it would be a good idea or a viable option. Gunn even stating prior that he wasn't interested in being the head of DC. But that was announced, and news outlets were keen to ask what DC actors thought of the announcement, with Henry Cavill stating he's clearly a very, very talented man, and I cannot wait to sit down and have long conversations with him. In an interview with Jacob Horowitz, Henry Cavill was very happy to be back.
Welcome back, Superman.
Cavill described that we would be seeing an enormously joyful Superman, and all the discussions from the fandom was who would be directing the Man of Steel sequel, and when will it be released. DC fans were truly happy for the first time in a long time, finally excited for the future. I even created a web series called The Road to Man of Steel 2, and had created 3 episodes on it based on the news we had heard from reliable news outlets about Man of Steel 2. But then murmurs were beginning to creep out that not all was what it seemed at DC, and we shouldn't get comfortable with the good news that had been recently coming our way. Rumours that a reboot was actually happening at DC, or maybe in fact just a soft reboot with the same actors. But the Den of Nerds claimed that James Gunn does not like Henry Cavill, with Gunn responding, stating that was false. The Den of Nerds then responded again, just stating that that was what he had heard from multiple multiple people, and Gunn so eloquently and maturely responded to his comment. So, whilst I thought Gunn's response was incredibly immature and not the way a DC head should act, I was pleased and relaxed that he debunked the rumour that he didn't like Henry Cavill. However, a few weeks later, then came the worst news we could have imagined. Henry Cavill posted a statement regarding his future at DC, confirming not only that he was no longer Superman after long talks with James Gunn, but that he was told to announce his return by Warner Brothers, confirming that Warner Brothers had planned for him to stay and that Gunn was the reason he was no longer Superman. Fans were outraged, and it was all focused at Warner Brothers and James Gunn. They had removed a fan favorite and humiliated him after he was told that he was back. They gave fans false hope. The actor and the studio had both confirmed that Cavill was back not just for Black Adam, but back in the DCEU permanently. But Gunn graciously allowed Cavill to announce his departure first, before announcing their new plans for their rebranded DCU, stating, "Among those on the slate is Superman. In the initial stages, our story will be focusing on an earlier part of Superman's life, so the character will not be played by Henry Cavill." In a later interview, Gunn stated, "We didn't fire Henry. Henry was never cast." And I don't know about you, but in my eyes, that is just a cop-out. The actor and studio had announced he was back and confirmed it was for more than just Black Adam. For fans, saying you just didn't cast him feels the exact same as you firing him, when he's just been confirmed that he is returning to DC. For me, if you're the co-head of DC, you need to recognize that and empathize with the fans who are upset by it. Otherwise, you're just acting like how trolls do. Now, remember when I stated earlier in the video that Walter Hamada had actually hired James Gunn to write a Superman film detached from the DCEU? Well, that is the motive behind him getting rid of Cavill. The past 6 months before his promotion to the co-head of DC, Gunn had been working on a Superman story. Evidently, when he was put in power, he ignored what Abdi and DeLuca were halfway through setting up, and the positive reaction it had caused from fans. Now, if they had their way, Gunn's Superman story probably would not have been made, as they wouldn't have released 2 Superman films in close proximity to one another, especially not confusing fans with the detached Superman film when they just announced that a fan favourite in Henry Cavill was back. So Henry Cavill was the person who was in the way of Gunn telling his Superman story. So instead of either adapting his story for Cavill or just putting it on the side to focus on what fans actually wanted, he decided the best idea was for him to get rid of Cavill and the rest of Abdi and DeLuca's plans, and pushed his Superman story to the front. His Superman story now being called Superman Legacy. So Henry Cavill was removed so Gunn could tell his Superman story with a younger Superman. Now, many argue that is fair enough. Gunn is in charge and he wants to tell a Superman story with a younger Superman. That would be completely fine for most if Cavill wasn't literally just in the latest DC movie and Cavill confirming he was back for more, along with the official Warner Brothers and DC pages confirming it too. If Cavill had been gone since 2017, then that is a completely different story. Most had moved on from then. Sure, many had hoped that we may see him again one day, but saying goodbye to that version of a character that many hold so close would have been easier because it would have been almost 6 years since he was last seen. But the fact it was 2 months after he was announced back and fans were so excited about that is why fans had a huge problem with that decision, and they are still upset about it. He also didn't present any form of heartfelt explanation for his decision. He kept it very short and very blunt, which is fine if he left it like that, but anyone who was upset and questioned why he didn't use Cavill was met with either a vague answer or a sarcastic answer. Because of that, many fans are refusing to watch anything Gunn produces because of what he did and the way he did it. And that wasn't all James Gunn did. The course-correcting Abdi and DeLuca had created for The Flash was also gone. Henry Cavill's Superman in The Flash was scrapped and instead replaced by a joke scene where George Clooney appeared. I won't go into the original scene as that would take a whole video to explain, but basically the plan DeLuca and Abdi were creating would have merged Supergirl into the main DCEU, and we would have seen Henry Cavill's Superman with Sasha Calle's Supergirl, setting up yet another exciting future. For a real in-depth description of the deleted Flash ending, make sure to watch this video here. The unfortunate 1.5 year journey of Henry Cavill's Superman had the actor and fans on an emotional roller coaster that will go down as one of the worst mistakes a studio has ever made. These decisions from Warner Bros. Discovery will change the fate of DC forever, and also shows that even with a new name, Warner Bros. Really haven't changed. But make sure to let me know your thoughts on the Henry Cavill situation and how you feel about the whole mess in the comments below. But that is all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe and turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. I hope to see you here again soon, so until then, have a great day. Bye!